Today's religion lesson is about Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden. Now, for the past few weeks, we've been learning about what's in our garden. That's been our theme. So I thought it would be a good idea to learn about another garden. It was a very special garden that God created long time ago when he was creating everything on earth. And it's a story about Adam and Eve, who were the first humans put on this earth. Now, this story is very special because it teaches us a lesson about doing the right thing and not giving into temptation. Now, temptation, if you get tempted, that means that you do something that you know you shouldn't be doing. And that's what happened to Adam and Eve. So, let me tell you about the story. So, God decided to create man. There he is, that's Adam. And he created him out of the soil. And he decided that Adam would be very important. He would get to choose all the names for the animals and the plants, and he would sort of be the boss of the land. And he walked around and he could do whatever he wanted. He had a beautiful place to live. But he was quite lonely, and God could see that. So he created Eve, which was the first woman. And she was created out of Adam's rib. So feel your ribs where they are in your chest there. God took one of the ribs from Adam and he created woman, and her name was Eve. And they lived in a beautiful garden called the Garden of Eden. That's them there. There were so many animals around them, and they played with all sorts of different animals. They had different fruits that they could eat from all the trees. And there were two very special trees in this garden. One was the tree of life, and the other was the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So the tree actually didn't sit on a book like that, but that tree is just showing you that if you ate from it, then you would get knowledge, which means your brain would be working and be full of ideas. Okay? So God told Adam and Eve that they could eat as much fruit from the tree of life as they wanted, but warned them that they must never eat the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil. So one day, Eve was walking alone in the garden when a serpent, now another name for a serpent is a snake, and he whispered to her from the tree and he said, Eve, shh, you and Adam eat from all the trees in the garden, but never the tree of knowledge of good and evil. Why don't you eat the fruit from this tree? God has forbidden it, Eve replied. If we eat the fruit or even touch it, we will die. The serpent hissed. You won't die. God doesn't want you to eat from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil because you will become like him if you do, and you will know good from evil. Eve looked at the forbidden fruit and saw that they looked delicious and fresh, and she believed the serpent and his lies. And she thought that she would get God's wisdom, so she'd become as clever as God. And so what she did was she plucked a piece of fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and she took a bite. Can you see the snake sticking out of the tree there, watching her? He looks a bit evil. So seeing that the fruit tasted delicious, she went and found Adam, and she told him he should eat the fruit too. And there they are standing, and the snake has the fruit in his mouth, and they're looking. But Adam said, God has forbidden it, and that if we eat it, we will die. Eve explained to Adam that the serpent had told her about becoming as wise as God after eating the fruit. And seeing that Eve had not died from eating the fruit, Adam took a piece and they ate it too. After that, they looked at each other and then at themselves, and they realized they were naked and they felt ashamed. So ashamed means that they were a bit shy now because they were naked. You wouldn't like to walk around with no clothes on. They turned away from each other and sewed some leaves together from the garden to cover their bodies. So those are little leaves that they've put in front of them so that to hide themselves. And when they saw God coming, so that light up above is God looking down on them. And when they saw him coming, they knew that they felt guilty that they had disobeyed him, and they were afraid to face him, so they hid. But God already knew that they had eaten the forbidden fruit, and he was very angry and disappointed. Adam tried to blame Eve for making him eat the fruit, and Eve blamed the serpent for deceiving her. But they had both still disobeyed God. God punished the serpent by taking away his legs and making serpents crawl. So that's why snakes crawl on the ground, on their bellies in the dirt all the time. That was his punishment. And he's also made him man's enemy. God punished Adam and Eve by sending them out of the Garden of Eden. Their lives would be difficult outside the paradise, and they would have to work very hard to survive in it. And even though they knew it was wrong to disobey God, Adam and Eve gave into temptation and had to face the consequences of their action. Their story represents all the people who must resist doing bad things, even if they seem like it would be fun or give us something good in return. So that's what God, the lesson he was teaching us, was that you must be good. Good things never come from doing bad things. And when we don't do what we are supposed to do, other people will be angry and disappointed with us, just like God was disappointed when Adam and Eve disobeyed him. And that's the story of Adam and Eve. And they had to go out into the big wide world, and they had to build their own home, they had to find their own food, they had to look after themselves, pretty much what we do today. And so that is, we have been born after Adam and Eve, and we carry on their story, and eventually we die. If Adam and Eve had stayed in the Garden of Eden forever and ever, they would have lived forever and never died. But God sent them out and punished them for disobeying him. So always try to be good and do good things in life. And this is the story we've learned today. I hope you enjoyed it. The story on Adam and Eve in the beautiful Garden of Eden.